you have had such an amazing impact in terms of blowing my mind in a relatively short period of time. So it's really, truly an honor. I know we got an opportunity to kind of talk in front of quite a relatively large number of the Bitcoiners that sort of follow me. And that was a very informative and very powerful, impactful talk to my group. But now we get an opportunity to talk in person, so that's very special to me.
Yeah, and hang out a bit afterwards too. I'm loving it. So thank you for the compliments, and likewise, I want to thank you too. Oliver has been a big supporter of mine. He's been very encouraging and very helpful to me as I've navigated being online for the first time to this degree. So I'd love to learn more about you, your background, your view on Bitcoin, perhaps what has been blowing your mind, both from things I've said and others. And so anyway, before we get to all that, you have a background on Wall Street.
Yes.
Most people that are perhaps learning about Bitcoin for the first time, they have no idea how Wall Street works. They have no idea what that world is like. What was it like for you?
Well, it was extraordinarily difficult. I became interested in the markets in the very early 1980s, and quickly I realized that this is what I really wanted to do with my entire life. I wanted to learn about money. I wanted to learn about what money is, how money operates, how to manage money. And I started in the very early 1980s when I was relatively young. I managed to, over a 6-7 year period, get to a place where a professional firm accepted me on their trading team. And that was a pretty big feat in and of itself, because most trading organizations on Wall Street only accepted Ivy League college graduates, and I was not one of those. But after multiple attempts, there was a firm that sort of accepted me. I got accepted into on a professional trading team in December of 1986, and that started off a career that I'm very, very proud of. I traded professionally on the street for a number of years, but something really interesting happened in late 1988, 1989, which was in the wake of the crash of 1987. And what happened was the first step toward Wall Street becoming, basically the first step toward Wall Street stepping into the digital space happened in late 1988 and 1989. And that was with the creation of a system called SOS, which stands for Small Order Execution System. And in the wake of the crash of 1987, Congress in the United States demanded that the NASDAQ market create a system that was entirely electronic, that did not require any human intervention, for small orders to basically go to the market for buys and sells without any human intervention. Well, I was one of the early traders, one of the first 8 traders to be on that system in late 1988, early 1989. And so I was at the start of the whole market becoming more and more digitized, moving from a personalized based business to a completely digital one, the one that we see today. I've watched the New York Stock Exchange floor go from being packed with individuals to now being practically a ghost town. I've seen fees that were astronomical in the mid 1980s to late 1980s go to zero, such as free commissions on Robinhood and things of that nature. So I've seen not only the democratization of the market during my career, I've seen the digitization of the market. I've seen the elimination of tens of thousands of human-based jobs in my industry. And I believe that this background made it somewhat easier for me, being in the traditional finance space, to understand the disruptive nature of what a technology can do. And I believe that seeing this happen to my industry, seeing this happen to Wall Street, made it easier for me to see from a visionary point of view what Bitcoin was capable of doing to the traditional financial industry and beyond.
I'm glad that you're taking the time to learn about Bitcoin, learn about Bitcoin's potential future value, both in terms of political currency units and on society as a whole. And I'm really glad that you're taking the effort to study and educate yourself about Bitcoin. However, I must make this message incredibly clear. If you are learning about Bitcoin, you must begin also learning about self-custody and taking possession of your own keys. This is really, really important. You can watch as many YouTube videos as you want, talking about how Bitcoin is going to skyrocket in fiat price and how the number is going to go up. You can talk about that all you want. You can daydream about this kind of vertical spike action for Bitcoin. You can daydream about this all you want. But my encouragement to you is that this is not a meme. This is not something to be taken lightly. We can think that this is a good thing, and it is a good thing ultimately for Bitcoin's long-term adoption, but this is real. Okay, this really happens in countries. You know, it may not happen in your country for some time. It may happen in a stair-step fashion, but this is not a meme. This is not a joke. And so, therefore, you need to take self-custody really, really seriously. Okay. I work full-time in self-custody solutions for people. I help people set up their multi-sig vaults. I help people set up their estate plans. I help people with a collaborative custody partnership and collaborative custody models. Okay. This is a chart of the amount of interest we have at the Bitcoin Advisor, the company I work at. Okay. This is not me personally. This is the whole company. We've been in business 7 years. Not a single client of ours has ever lost a single sat. Okay. And we have a good number of clients. And this is our demand. My point in showing you this chart, my point in showing you this message right now is that it is increasingly urgent, increasingly important that you begin taking self-custody very seriously. I'm telling you, I'm on the inside of this all day, every day, 6 days a week, and demand for self-custody is skyrocketing, okay? The kinds of clients we have, the number of clients we have, the conviction in the clients we have, it is only going up, okay? And people are booking meetings with me weeks, okay, in advance. In some cases, over a month in advance. And we are in bear market, okay? That chart, this chart right here is from October 2023. Okay, like incredible low interest globally in Bitcoin, and our demand is still skyrocketing, it's still spiking. And my encouragement is that if we have a bull run, if we have parabolic spikes such as this, where Bitcoin goes rapidly upwards in terms of price, if we have these periods of time, okay, transaction fees are going to spike. Okay, exchanges are going to halt withdrawals. Okay, people are going to panic. They're going to smash by any price. Okay, it's going to be increasingly difficult to have any time with people to help you in your self-custody setups. So first and foremost, whatever you do, whether you work with me at the Bitcoin Advisor, whether you go somewhere else, whether you figure it out on your own, whatever the case, please start figuring out self-custody. Hot wallets, cold wallets, cold wallets, single sig, multi-sig, whatever you do, just start figuring it out now, because I'm increasingly alarmed by the number of Bitcoiners that do not have self-custody. So please, if you have any Bitcoin self-custody, but especially if you have a large amount of Bitcoin in self-custody, please start taking this stuff seriously, because it's only going to be increasingly important in the future. And so, if you'd like to work with me, if you'd like to hear my opinions, perspectives, and ideas on this topic, you can find me at the Bitcoin Advisor. This is precisely why I work at the Bitcoin Advisor, because I believe this is such an important topic here, okay? You can find me there. You can have expert guidance on how to self-custody Bitcoin, to buy, secure, and store it properly for the long term. We can have tailored strategies for you, what your long-term vision is, both for yourself, your own individual future, your retirement, and for your future generations as well. Again, multi-sig vaults, estate plans, all of these things for you, okay? You can just book a free meeting with me here, and the link down below in the description. Again, the first consultation is completely free, where we can talk about your priorities and see if there's a value add both for you and for the Bitcoin Advisor as well. And again, our goal is to help you have generational wealth for you and your loved ones and your children without losing sleep, okay? And that's why not only do you get a free initial consultation, but you have dozens and dozens of pages of education about multi-sig, self-custody, how to store your Bitcoin properly, things to avoid, things to pursue, okay? Again, dozens and dozens of pages of free education for you to be learning about this increasingly important, increasingly urgent topic, okay? And then you can learn further about the Bitcoin Advisor and why we provide much more value for half the cost of our competitors. You can learn about all this and more in that link in the description, where you can book a free consultation with me at the Bitcoin Advisor. So again, whatever you do, whether you work with me at the Bitcoin Advisor or you try to figure out on your own, please just start taking action now. Because in a couple of years, higher and higher net worth people are going to be entering the space and demanding self-custody. Okay, more and more companies, more and more charities, more and more pension funds, more and more churches, all these things, all of these groups of people, all these entities are going to be coming into Bitcoin very quickly, and they'll be willing to pay the transaction fees. They'll be willing to pay whatever fiat price and get for their sats. They'll be willing to do the self-custody as fast as possible. And so my encouragement to you, again, I'm glad you're enjoying these videos. I really appreciate you subscribing and commenting, being a part of these videos and increasing your Bitcoin education. But please, please, please do not stop at the end of this video. Immediately after you watch the end of this video, please start taking your self-custody seriously, whether that's with me at the Bitcoin Advisor, again, link in description, or it's on your own. Whatever the case, please just do it. Thank you.
A lot of people ask me, like, what made me get it? And I believe that that's at the core of what made me get it, because I lived through a complete revolutionary change in my industry, and it was connected to money. And I believe that Bitcoin has emerged really more as an evolution, more than a revolution, but an evolution of what that process began. That process that I lived through began taking power from the hands of individuals and groups and organizations and placing it in the hands of individuals through the small order execution system. And ultimately, that led to individuals basically being able to make their own decisions from their own laptops in the own comfort of their homes. This was an absolute impossibility when I started in this space. So seeing that huge evolution occur helped me, from a visionary point of view, see what potentially Bitcoin could do as an extension of that.
The next step,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I did not know that. So you were one of the first eight people that saw that, and going from, and that's very fascinating to me, because obviously you talk a lot about technology. And so perhaps from the very beginning of the stock market, back with the Dutch, to that moment in the 80s, the late 80s, yes, there was more change in your career, or at least the later parts of your career, than those hundreds of years before, going from paper to paper to paper, and then no more paper.
That's a very, very fascinating way to take a look at it that way. That more change happened over a 20-year period, and happened in hundreds of years. And in addition to that, the price decline.
Yeah.
I watched my first professional trade was 1,000 shares of a company called Intel. Some of you might be familiar with that, right? It cost me $1,500 to place that order, that professional order. And to sell that professional order cost me an additional $1,500. So
in those
that
dollars,
trade, yes, and that's right, in those dollars back in the early to mid 1980s, right? So think about it. I'm $3,000 underwater before I can make my first single penny, my first single dollar in the trade. All right. And those were institutional rates at the time. I watched prices go from $3,000 a trade to, in less than a decade, $25 for the same trade. And then in another decade, less than 6 cents for the trade. And in a few years after that, zero for the trade.
Yeah.
Prices collapsed.
Yeah.
And seeing that made me realize that technology, the advancements of technology, the efficiencies of technology drive prices to zero. So when we take this concept to Bitcoin, it was easy for me to see that this technology has the potential of driving everything towards zero forever.